Hi there. Today we are going to discuss your financial statements, and I'm going to take you quickly through the financial statement analysis that I performed for you. Basically, what a financial statement analysis is we use ratios calculated through using your financial statements and use them to compare through industry established benchmarks. I have your financial statements printed out for you to look at and reference throughout our meeting. So the main ones we're going to use today are your statement of net worth and then your statement of cash flow. So I'm going to do a quick brief overview of kind of all the ratios we use, and then we're going to go through kind of the important ones that we made recommendations on. So essentially, we use these ratios because they give us kind of a good measure on the health of your current financial situation, and then we can kind of pinpoint where we can make recommendations and get you moving towards those financial goals. We're going to use three main kinds of ratios today. So the first one we're going to use is liquidity ratios. These are basically a measurement of your ability to meet your short-term obligations, and what that is, they're things that are going to be needed to pay within 1 year. And liquidity means they're essentially using cash and cash equivalents. So things that can be money like on hand really, really fast. So the next kind of ratios that we're going to use are debt ratios. So basically these just measure like the manageability of your debt. And we're going to kind of look at how you're doing there. There's 4 different ones we use for that. And then the last kind of ratios we're going to use are financial security ratios. So these kind of tell us how you're working towards your financial goals, specifically like kind of saving for retirement and education funding and how well your assets are working for you. Well, investments anyway. Then the first one, the liquidity ratios, we did the emergency fund ratio and the current ratio. So emergency fund ratio measures how much time, it's measured in months, you would be able to cover your fixed expenses. So things like home, car, stuff like that. Kind of the non-negotiables. And so we want you to be anywhere between 3 to 6 months. We want it there just in case of unemployment, any kind of unexpected situation, injury, anything that might happen where you have a big loss of income, you can rely on this fund. So once again, 3 to 6 months is kind of what we look for, and yours currently is 0.15 a month. So this is an area that we want to improve. One recommendation we make is kind of adjusting your budget. So we looked at your statement of cash flows, and currently your cash outflow is greater than your cash inflow. So we think making a few adjustments to that flexible part of your cash flow statement and those flexible expenses, and that's totally up to you what you want to change, but that could really make a difference in being able to save and put money in this emergency fund, kind of a rainy day fund, just in case, to make sure that your financial health, will always be there. So the next one is, it's a current ratio, so it measures your ability to meet short-term obligations, and that's anything that's going to be due within a year, once again. And you had a good one. So we want anywhere between 1 to 2, and yours is the 1.5. So then next, we're going to look at the debt ratios. So we took your housing ratios and did those. So basically it measures how much your gross pay is being dedicated towards housing, and then the second one, your basic housing costs, and the second one is how much of your gross pay is being dedicated to debt payments, and then once again those housing costs. And so for the first one, we want you below 20 or at or below 28%, and you were at 20, so that's pretty good. And then we want that to go down as you near retirement. And the next one, we wanted you below 36%, and you're at 24. So doing pretty well there as well. So the next thing we're going to look at is your debt to total asset ratio. This is an area that we think you could improve on. So this is basically how much of your assets are truly owned by creditors. We kind of want you anywhere from 10 to 20%, and you're at 26. So not a huge difference, but you are above the benchmark. We look to kind of adjust this in the mortgage and debt management section of your plan. And so basically refinancing that mortgage will let you use that equity to kind of pay off your credit card debt. It'll give you at a lower rate than those high credit card rates, and get you in a better position so your debt doesn't quite outweigh your assets that much. So then the next one was how much of your assets are owned that you own, actually. So it's the net worth to total assets. So in this, we want you to get better as you get closer to retirement. So for younger people, it's around 20%, and then as you get to retirement, 90 to 100%. You're currently at 74%, which is pretty strong. We just want to continue working towards that as you get closer to retirement, that 100% goal. Things like, paying off credit card, boat, camper, things that come with a little bit of time, we can continue working towards as you get closer to retirement. So the last two are financial security ratios. So these tell us, how well you're working towards those financial goals. So the first one is savings rate, how much of your gross pay is, being saved towards retirement, essentially. And so we want you anywhere between 10 to 13%, and your savings rate is currently 13%. And we might have to make a bit of adjustment though, because this 13% is kind of recommended if you were saving since you were around 25. So we're going to need to do a little bit more in-depth analyzing to make sure that you're at where you're going to want to be when you retire. So then the last one we did is the investment asset to gross pay ratio, which is kind of exactly how it sounds. How much of your pay is going towards investing. And so at the age of 65, your ratio should be 16, or in other words, 20 to 1. And your current ratio is 3.25. So that's a little bit lower. Some of the recommendations we have are, getting that 529 plan for your college funding. And after we take care of some of the things that were above, we're going to look at some investment options for you and make sure your money is working towards you and not against you, and get you in a good place to get that investment assets to gross pay ratio a little bit higher to where it should be as you're nearing 65. So that's what we have for you right now of your financial statement analysis, and kind of an overview of the ratios, why we use them, how we use them, and then how we can next time, in like a year or two, kind of readjust and see how our recommendations are doing on these ratios, and keep working to, keep you within those benchmarks. Thanks for coming in today.